Is Brian Shaw a snowflake? Okay, so one of those things that is going on right now in the fitness industry is, should we cancel Arnold? A couple big time influencers, Brian Shaw included, have canceled Arnold. And so I want to find out why. I want to figure out what is going on here and what's happening.
And we have finally people, more and more people from government have, kind of acknowledged the fact that there is a virus. And they were kind of very late, may I remind you, in warning.
There is indeed a virus, yes.
But finally, when they did warn us and it did spread, and we had to kind of cancel our Arnold's Classic Sports and Fitness Festival in Columbus, and we were only allowed to have a limited crowd last March, meaning a year and a half ago. That's when I realized that we all have to now come together on this thing. And so I started putting posts out there.
Okay, so the first thing is, just when people make statements, I like to slowly break down their statements and hear what they're saying and sort of repeat what they're saying, and then try to analyze and translate that or interpret it in my, through my lens, right? And so I hear Arnold, he's concerned about the virus, or which he should be, and then he's also recognizing like it had a negative impact on the Arnold Sports Classic in 2020. I was actually at that competition where it was very, very limited. So he's concerned because he lost a lot of money. He also mentions the city of Columbus. The city of Columbus lost a ton of money from 2020 and not having it in 2021.
About washing your hands regularly and wearing a mask and to do social distancing and to follow the kind of rules that the experts put out there, and to face the fact that this is here and this is going to grow and it's going to expand and it's going to really affect a lot of people's lives. And so now, cut year and a half later, we are still in a mess. And, there's still people that live in denials. There's still people that don't believe in masks. There's still people out there that say, well, we don't have to do social distancing and all this kind of stuff. And I just think that people ought to be reminded over and over that the experts are saying that we have to wear masks, especially when you go indoor. The experts are saying we still should wash our hands regularly. We should still do social distancing, especially now with this new comeback of the virus.
Okay, so now he's talking about, listen to the experts. Bill Burr did a clip with this, actually with Joe Rogan, where he's like, dude, I'm not the expert. I'm just going to listen to these people.
I'm not going to sit here with no medical degree, listening to you with no medical degree, with an American flag behind you, smoking a cigar, acting like we know what's up better than the CDC. All I do is I watch the news once every 2 weeks. I'm like, mask or no mask? Still mask? All right, mask. That's all I give a fuck about.
I think Arnold's sort of echoing exactly what Bill Burr had mentioned. Say what you will about masks or whatever, but he's using his logic and his reason to determine this, right?
Which is the fourth round now, that we have to really go and work together on that. And there is misinformation out there. And my point of it was basically, look, I'm an expert on how to build a bicep. And so therefore, I know exactly what I'm talking about. I've studied this issue. I know exactly how to create this peak and all this stuff. There's no one that knows more about a bicep than I do, because I studied this issue for 50 years. And the same is also with the virus. There are people out there that are experts that study this year after year after year, and that are experienced, like Dr. Fauci, that has been in this, probably for his entire life. I mean, why would you not?
I think Fauci was first appointed to his role during Ronald Reagan. I think Ronald Reagan actually absolutely loved him, and I think he's been, pretty well loved by most presidents since then. He's under a lot of fire now, but what Arnold's saying is, listen to experts that have been involved with this in their specific fields is what I think he's trying to get that point across. Is like, I don't know how to fix a car. I might go look at a YouTube video to try and fix a car and fix a small part of it, but if it comes down to something major, I have no idea how to handle that. And I think that's sort of where Arnold's going with this here.
And there's so many other scientists out there and experts on this subject. So I believe them and I follow them very carefully. And of course, sometimes things are happening that are unexpected. So then you have to make the adjustments and all that. But I think people should know there is a virus here. It kills people. And the only way we prevent it is to get vaccinated, to wear masks, to do social distancing, washing your hands all the time, and not just to think about, well, my freedom is being kind of disturbed here. No, screw your freedom. because with freedom comes obligations and responsibilities.
Next up here now, I think where Arnold's going with it is basically he believes vaccinations prevent the spread of COVID-19, which is scientifically proven. And so where he's going further is, and this might be where some people start to get their feelings hurt or emotional. He says, screw your freedoms, but he says, screw your freedoms. Your freedom comes with responsibilities and with accountabilities.
But just say, I have the right to do X, Y, and Z. When you affect other people, that is when it gets serious. It's like no different than a traffic light. We put a traffic light at the intersection.
I think this is really, really important that we don't just cut out this knee-jerk reaction. You know, we're not just CNN where we're just gonna pull out one little audio clip and jump on it, right? He's saying screw your freedoms in the sense, screw your freedom. You have a responsibility to be aware of how you can impact others. And he brings up the traffic light violation, like there's a red light, but you have the freedom to just drive right through. Well, no, you actually don't have that freedom to do that because you have a negative impact on other people and you could hit them and kill them. I've had multiple people here at the gym who've been hospitalized. I've had multiple people that I know that have passed away from COVID. It is important to understand that there are a lot of issues of accountability. So I almost compare this to, I think where he's going with this, it's like smoking on an airplane. Like, I have the freedom to smoke on the airplane. No, you don't have the freedom to smoke on the airplane. You can't do that. That's not legal. You have a negative impact on those around you. And I think that that's an important factor. So
you cannot go and not put a mask on, because when you breathe, you can infect someone else, and you can infect someone that then gets sick and may die. So this is why I think we all have to work together on this. The only way we can lick this virus is, again, if we do like I suggested earlier about politics, we have to come together rather than fighting and always just saying, this, according to my principles, this is a free country.
Okay, so here he mentions, everybody's got to come together. And I think that's one thing that we've got to point out is that last I looked, every single governor, Republican or Democrat, is vaccinated. Every single living president, Republican or Democrat, is vaccinated. There was a Republican president that issued the vaccination, expedited the creation of it, and now there's a liberal president instituting it and sort of getting it carried out. I want to say it's like 85% of the military is vaccinated. Almost everybody in Congress is vaccinated. So I do think from a political perspective, I think it's like 98% of physicians are even vaccinated. So what I'm seeing is from a political perspective, I think both sides, at least as far as the leaders, are vaccinated. And I think that that's an important factor to bring in.
And I'm going to have the freedom to wear no mask. Yeah, you have the freedom to wear no mask, but you know something? You're a schmuck for not wearing a mask, because you're not supposed to protect your fellow members around you.
I think it's important to recognize, and my dad would always say this when we're talking about politics, it's important to criticize the government standards, but it's because that actually leads to the improvement of the government. But it's also important to see things for what you're gonna gain, and also to see things for the greater good of the society of the United States. I almost get the feeling from his statements, the sort of united front that he wants. He's not saying like steal everybody's freedom. He's saying if you have a negative impact on someone else, then that's actually not a freedom. It's a responsibility to be held accountable to not have that negative impact on others. And I think that in turn will lead to what Arnold's discussing. Now, what I want to go into, so Brian Shaw has canceled Arnold from his gym. He's taken him out of his gym, and I wanted to go into now, let's see, what is it about that he's looking at as, something that makes him unhappy?
Well, I am a proud American. I train with an American flag on the wall of my gym, and I'm also a big believer in freedom. Now, there are a lot of people in our country right now that have forgotten that freedom is very important. Also, I have trained with a picture or poster of Arnold Schwarzenegger on the wall of my gym basically since I started training, because Arnold was a huge influence on me. Now, Arnold has made some comments recently, and he is free to say whatever he wants to say, but when you say something like screw your freedom, it doesn't sit well with me, and I know it doesn't sit well with a lot of other Americans out there, and therefore, I will no longer be training with a poster of Arnold on the wall of my gym. It's time for it to come down.
I think, guess where I'm trying to start with this is that Shaw clearly is a proud American. He's got an American flag in his gym. I think that's great. I think that I can definitely relate to him, and you know, one of those things that I love to say to people is when I travel, when I came back from the Olympics, when I've been at World Championships and I'm in these other countries, there is no greater feeling than landing in the US and it's like, yes, we're home, I'm back in the US. Like, I think that that's something that I always love to share with people, how happy I am, because it is my home country. Yes, there's other great countries out there, don't get me wrong. But I love to come home to the United States because it's a great country. There's a lot of things that I love about it. But I think where I see a mistake with Shaw, is it's like he just pulls this soundbite. He said, screw your freedoms. Okay, he did say that. He said that, but if we can go back to what Arnold said, screw your freedoms, you have a responsibility. If I'm coughing and I can get someone else sick and that person dies, that's not being responsible, and that's not being held, I'm not gonna be held accountable for the greater good of this country. And I think that that's important, is that we can't just be like CNN and just pull this soundbite out and run with it. We have to see the context. And the context was not screw your freedoms. The context was have respect for your freedoms and those around you. And then that's where that traffic light scenario came into play. Arnold used the traffic light example of you can't just drive through a traffic light because you have the freedom to do that. No, you are in a society, so you have to be aware of how you can negatively impact others around you. And I think in reality, it ends up being like this really poor interpretation of Arnold's comments and a knee-jerk reaction. I think a lot of knee-jerk reactions are when I experience them from people, and I'm just as guilty, is they almost come across like a snowflake. Like, you didn't really listen to what the person said. Is Brian Shaw a snowflake? Is Brian Shaw the strongest man in the world? Are his feelings hurt because he took something out of context and misinterpreted what Arnold was saying? It's like, I think that might be what's going on here. Is like, you can try to disagree with what he's saying about the vaccine, but our political leaders on both sides are sort of saying like, look, we're just trying to slow the spread so that we can go back to normal and we can make money. And I get it. Like, that's how I feel. I just do, for me personally, I'm just doing what I'm supposed to do based off of what the leaders tell me to do, because it comes down to, I just want my gym to be open so I can make money and not have to worry about anything else. And you're taking Arnold off the wall because he's trying to bridge that gap between politics and uniting a front so that we can actually get back to normal. And Arnold's stance, and I think most of science's stance, is that if everybody gets vaccinated, we can get back to normal and we can start to make more money. And that's what it is so awesome about the US, is I just want to make money. Arnold just wants to make money. Probably Brian Shaw just wants to make money. But if we're going to have these knee-jerk emotional snowflake reactions, it's not going to be productive in any way, shape, or form. So I think that's one of those big factors. Should Brian Shaw be canceling Arnold? Or can he? He can do whatever he wants. But I think we've all got to be aware that when we start to make these sort of like emotional snowflakey responses, we're not hearing people out for what they're actually saying. And that could have a tremendous negative impact on where we're trying to go and when we're all going to try to get back to normalcy and make that big cash that the US is so good at making. So just be aware. I think Brian Shaw is being a little bit of a snowflake in this case. Hopefully he comes back. He puts Arnold back up on the wall. He's a beast. He can keep training like an absolute animal. And hopefully one day he and Arnold can make amends in Columbus, where they're both proud Americans and they both can do their job of contributing positively to the fitness world. So if you want more content and more reactions around fitness and around strength training, click on this card. Until next time, guys, peace.